Yo, check out how Dragon Ball Super Broly insulted Yamamuro.
Prepare yourself, Dan Saiyan.
If you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way you never miss an upload. These are today's hashtag end of video squad winners. If you'd like to participate, make sure to watch till the end of this video, then drop a comment with the hashtag end of video squad for a chance to be featured in my next video. I think we can all say with great certainty that one of the best aspects and probably the best aspect to Dragon Ball when it comes to Dragon Ball Super Broly was the Shintani style. The Shintani style is the closest thing that we've gotten so far to the old school Dragon Ball feel and the manga feel. It just fits so well with Dragon Ball and allows for more fluid motion. At least that's the way I see it. Now, I'm not an animation expert by any means. I'm just a fan that loves good animation, and I know when I see really good animation and when I see really shitty animation. And to me, right now, the Shintani style is by far one of the most superior, if not the most superior way to watch Dragon Ball. And that is the direction that Dragon Ball Super needs to go in the future. And it seems like that is what the staffers, the ones that were behind the production of Dragon Ball Super Broly, they had the same idea, because they insulted Yamamuro. And this all came out in an interview with Yamamuro. Now, I'm going to leave a link to the interview. It is on Anime AJ's Twitter. These are the tidbits, the most important parts that he found out in the interview. So I'm going to leave that in the description below. And that is what I'm going to be covering today, because I think there's a lot of very interesting information on there, especially if you are a fan of animation and want to know what happens behind the scenes. Now, Yamamuro used to be a legend of Dragon Ball. That used to be vintage Dragon Ball. His style was the preferred style back in the day. He did some of the best fights in Dragon Ball and had a lot of detail in the artwork. I mean, Goku versus Majin Vegeta, Janemba versus Super Saiyan 3 Goku. These are all some of the high points from his career, and he's done so much more. There were so many posters, and I've talked about this before, there were so many posters that I had on my walls as a kid that were straight Yamamuro. He is essentially the father of Dragon Ball Z animation, or at least in my opinion he is, because his style was the style that I liked the best in Dragon Ball Z, and it quickly went downhill after that, because as time went on, it seemed like his character drawings, everything got much stiffer, much more rigid, and a lot shinier. Like a lot. And he explains why that happened, why his artwork went on such a downgrade in this interview, which I thought was pretty ballsy of him. But he also kind of takes a jab at Dragon Ball Super Broly and the Shintani style a little bit, and we find out why he wasn't the one that was behind Dragon Ball Super Broly. Remember, his style, he was the one that was behind most of the animation, the majority of the animation in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super. So even though there were a lot of other key players, his style was the style that was permeating. That was the style that seemed to stick onto Dragon Ball like a gum underneath your shoe. It's something that we really couldn't shake. And then finally, I think that they wanted to go in a completely different direction, and they got Shintani. But how they got Shintani, that is the real slap in the face, in my personal opinion. But let's go into this interview. So Yamamuro was recommended back in the day to take over for character designs on Dragon Ball from Maeda, who departed Dragon Ball and left the spot open for him. And that is basically how he started back in the day. He started to make and create his designs basically following his predecessor's template. As time went on, he started to create and develop his own style, and I find this little tidbit from the interview really interesting. The hardest thing he ever had to animate was Janemba's vanishing effect. All the different shapes and shadows were a pain in the ass. He says nowadays this would almost definitely be done with CG. He also complains about having to draw cell spots. Every animator says this, and it's crazy because I honestly never even thought about what went into animating Janemba's particle effects, or basically morphing, and I always thought maybe they used some computers, CGI, something along those lines, but it doesn't seem to be the case, because he says that if it was animated today, it would be used with CG and it'd be a lot easier more than likely. So that's crazy to think that they animated this all in the traditional style, and it just gives me more appreciation for all the hard work that animators have to go through to get this artwork out there. And this was a boss ass fight. This is one of the best fights in Dragon Ball, and yeah, he complains about cell spots. And my own artist, the one behind Dragon Ball Reset, he also doesn't like cell spots, but I helped him out with that because the golden version of Cell that we use doesn't have any spots. He's more chrome than anything. Now here is where he takes a little dig at Dragon Ball Super Broly and the Shintani style. Peak salt. Yamamuro watched DBS Broly on DVD, but couldn't finish it because the camera movement hurt his head. He wonders if kids could even watch such a thing. So that was my biggest thing with the Shintani style. I told you guys that to me it seemed like it makes things move a little bit more fluid, a little better, and a little easier, laying the work for all the crazy movement that we saw in Dragon Ball Super Broly, all the crazy camera angles, everything. And here he takes a dig at Dragon Ball Super Broly because he couldn't even finish the movie because it hurt his head, and he wonders how anybody could have finished it, including kids. So he really is salty about not being the artist and the chief designer of the animation style for Dragon Ball Super Broly. Now here is the big one, and here's the one that I think is kind of fucked up also, and that is Yamamura wasn't invited to audition for character designer when pre-production for DBS Broly began. That, in my opinion, is probably the biggest slap in the face to Yamamura and all his work, all his many years on Dragon Ball. And to me, that just shows that they were ready to move on to somebody else. They didn't want to give him a chance because they didn't like or didn't want to move forward with his style. They wanted to do something fresh and brand new, and they realized that his style has gotten inferior. But in my personal opinion, I think that if they would have given him a chance, we could have gotten a Dragon Ball Super Broly movie that looked like his older style, like, you know, Goku versus Majin Vegeta. That animation style, that would have been really cool to see, although that would have been a completely different movie aesthetically, and it would have just brought Dragon Ball right back to where it was. So they didn't even give him a chance to kind of fix what he's done with Dragon Ball, with how everything looks like it's made out of plastic and how inferior the animation looks, in my opinion, and they just gave off the prized possession, Dragon Ball Super Broly, to somebody else. At least give the guy a chance. I mean, he is a veteran of Dragon Ball. He should have at least gotten a chance, in my opinion, even though to me, I think that it's good to retire him and start with somebody fresh. Some fresh faces, a fresh take on Dragon Ball. So here we talk about his style, and apparently before in other interviews, Yamamura has addressed his style, the evolution of his style, and before he had stated that the reason that he had changed his style was because he was trying to strike a balance between old and new, and it just didn't work out very well. It seems like he says the same thing in this interview, but he also clarifies. He says, though he clarifies his use of highlights was an attempt to compensate for Toei disbanding the secondary compositing department. He doesn't elaborate, but I suppose he means he tried to draw lighting that would otherwise be absent. So all the shininess, all the plastic looking on all these Dragon Ball characters that we've seen in this style, he did it because he wanted to draw lighting where there wasn't any. No, it didn't come out that way. It came out like they were rigid, they were statues, they were plastic, and they just looked ugly, in my opinion. Like the hair, just awful. I don't like that artificial glossiness. It just looks weird. So I'm glad that at least now we finally know why he did it. But that's probably one of the reasons that they moved on to Shintani. And that's basically it. The last thing that we have here is that he mentions he's gotten super into architecture, having just built this house. He hopes to visit France one day. That's really the last real important thing from the interview. I want to thank Anime AJ for this thread. That's where I got all my information. Again, I'm going to leave a link to it in the description below. But yeah, that last little bit to me shows that, yeah, he's basically hung up his cape. He's retired. He's not going to go back to Dragon Ball. At least that's what it looks like. But he may, you never know. Anyway guys, I like that we got all this in-depth knowledge now of the process behind Dragon Ball Super Broly. And it shows us the direction, the head that they have going forward. It really makes a lot of sense. And again, I do think that they should have given Yamamuro a chance, but at the end of the day, I think that we won out with Shintani. Anyway guys, if you made it to this point of the video, you are now part of the hashtag End of Video Squad. Congratulations, thank you so much guys for supporting me, staying till the end because that helps out the channel. Today I'm going to be responding to Swift Games. Facts, this man always be like, Nani, there's no way he has that much power. Yo, I have a question for you, G. Would you rather let Golden Cooler be canon or Super Saiyan 4 Goku? I honestly don't really care about Cooler at all. And I really don't care if he's canon. So obviously Super Saiyan 4 Goku. But if they're going to make Cooler, I would say incorporate the storyline somehow and modernize it. Incorporate the Big Yeti Star. That is probably the dopest that Cooler will ever be. Thank you for your comment. This is going to be Blackscape signing off. Take care, guys.
Subscribe for more content.